So today I'm actually here with one of our doctors from Amen Clinics, Dr. Karimpour. I kind of mess that name up sometimes, but so I wanted to actually bring you in because you deal a lot with our young adults.
Yes.
So we deal a lot with children and young adults here. And so I wanted to just talk to you about sort of what you're seeing as a trend. I know you said last year you saw a lot of bullying. This year you're seeing...
Yeah, last year seeing a lot more bullying. And luckily we haven't had to deal with any shootings in our area since we're in California. But this year I'm just seeing a lot of social awkwardness, a lot of kids who are just... parents were complaining about them being addicted to video games, being on social media constantly, not making time to socialize. A lot of parents find that their children feel like it's soothing for them to be on it, but in reality, it's kind of also causing a lot of depression and anxiety.
So I know we see studies. We constantly see study that depression linked to excessive use of social media.
Yeah.
But you're actually seeing these kids come in. And what do you see more of with the depression and the anxiety? Is it more college-age kids or teenagers?
I mean, I'm seeing both because what's happening is they're not developing good coping mechanisms. They're not learning how to be in society. And so then it causes, as they're
forced to.
Right, as they're forced to.
Okay, so they are on their phones. They're not. It's funny. My daughter actually said that to me recently. Not related to that as much, but she was like, boys don't know how to communicate with girls anymore.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, first of all, the first sign of any kind of awkwardness or being uncomfortable, she goes, if you ever watch kids my age, the second they're uncomfortable in any social situation, they're in their phone.
Yeah.
It's their escape.
It's like their security blanket.
It's their security blanket.
But the problem with it is those video games are targeted towards causing addiction.
Interesting.
So, I mean, at least a blanket is actually safer than being on your phone.
That's so interesting. And then my daughter also said, she's like, yeah, and boys only know how to talk to girls. Like, very few boys know how to actually look a girl in the eye, ask her out, talk to her without feeling weird. And so they always do it over
text.
Right. Over text or over Snapchat or whatever it is. And she's like, my daughter's like not been raised that way. So she's been raised around a lot of adults and in the clinics and, around doctors.
Around
and so
people.
Right. She's had to make eye contact and shake hands. And so it's weird to her. So she's like, so then I'm actually around these kids face to face and they don't know how to sit and talk to you.
Yeah.
So
it's a huge problem. It's
interesting.
a huge problem. And if we even dissect it more, it's not just about, guys and girls being able to talk. It's even now you're seeing children aren't even speaking with their parents.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're stuck in their little zombie world of either it's video games and they're meeting these strangers on these video games.
What is that?
That is scary.
No, that's not okay.
That's very scary.
And these strangers are actually posing to be other people.
Right.
Like, what is going on with that?
That's dangerous. I mean,
right.
You don't know if they're going to be stalking them. I mean, it opens up so many.
Well, it could be some 45-year-old guy living in his mom's basement and driving a white van.
Exactly.
Sorry to stereotype. I'm just trying to make a point.
No, but it could be like a killer.
Right.
I mean, this is scary.
You have no clue.
And if they know computers and how to hack, they can know where you're living. They can know so much about you.
Well, and the weird thing is, so there's a new study out, brand new study. Daniel and I actually just talked about it on our podcast about how social media use linked to depression in 10-year-old girls. And I'm like, when I first saw that, I'm like, 10-year-old girls in social media? I mean, to me, I was like, it didn't even make sense in my head. I'm like, why are 10-year-old girls on social media? It didn't even make sense to me. So even though my daughter, because of safety reasons, because of some of the things we do, I had a phone for my daughter. But there was no social media on it. I'm like, why would a 10-year-old need social media? I am clueless as to why this is a necessary thing.
Because it's not necessary, but what happens is it comes from the household. Like, you don't allow it. You and Daniel don't allow it. But what's happening is those parents are allowing it. So then they go to school and everyone's Snapchatting. Everyone has Instagram. Everyone is, so then it becomes that peer pressure. Well, I want that too. If they're not on it. So then if they do become on it, then it's all this fake advertisement.
Well, and I do understand that because my daughter now is 14 and she does have Snapchat and she does all that. She does Instagram. But because we didn't let her start so young, like she didn't even know she didn't know about it when she was that young. So there was not that peer pressure to do it because we didn't allow it on her phone. Then when she asked about it, we're like, oh, eventually. We just like, it's not going to happen. Like, not when they're that young. But by the time she did start it, we also incorporated the education along with it. I mean, I'm just very brutally honest with her about the dangers of it, the risk of strangers, you know, some of the things that can happen. I actually made her, and this is really, really awful, and people are going to get hate mail for this. I made her watch a movie about sex trafficking because I'm like, this is not a joke. You travel around the world with us. You've got a phone. Like, this is serious. So I'm very honest with her about some of the ramifications of what can happen with bad behavior if you are not careful. But then on the flip side of that, with the education, one thing that we do, and I would love to hear what you like suggest to parents, I keep her busy.
Yeah.
Like she's busy doing active things.
Exactly. That's exactly the problem that we're having in today's society. And I think parents are finding it very hard to find a balance for it because they want their children to not get bullied, for them to be doing the things that other kids are doing. But at the same time, they're not aware of all the safety measures, what exactly is Snapchat, how to put in, you know, so I think that's the problem. The busy part is, and I remember when I was in high school, I never had time. I never had time to hang out on the week.
No.
During the week, I was doing 3-hour sports year round. I was either in volleyball or I was so busy. I was in AP. I was so busy that I didn't have time for all the other things.
Right.
And that's what I'm finding. Parents are seeing that, oh, okay, well, you know, Johnny doesn't like to play basketball, so instead he's doing video games.
Right.
Or instead, like, you know, she's, you know, and then the other problem with the social media with the girls and the when you said that's like obvious for me is then that's how the eating disorders start happening.
Right. Because they're comparing themselves.
They're comparing themselves. They're taking these pictures and, oh, well, she looks like this. And, you know, everything is, you know.
Oh, and by the way, so funny.
Too.
So there was even my daughter actually showed me on Instagram, someone uncovered how many of the celebrities had posted photos of themselves that had been photoshopped. And I was cracking up because if you know some of those programs, the way that they knew that they had been photoshopped or been, I guess, filter, whatever. They use some filter. So the way you know is because behind them, everything was distorted.
Oh.
So the picture like was perfect, but then behind them, like things that were supposed to be straight lines were like distorted.
Right.
So they weren't, they were crooked. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So even perfect people on social media are not perfect. Okay.
Right.
So, but these young girls don't know that and they're comparing themselves to that.
Exactly.
At a very young age. There's one study that I actually put in the Omni Diet when I wrote the Omni Diet that 10% of 9-year-old girls have tried to make themselves vomit.
Yeah.
Because they're dissatisfied with their bodies. Now that's just tragic right there.
Yeah.
So we have to do a better job of this. There's a way to track how much time you spend on social media on your phone, and it was really interesting. So, and we weren't doing this because we're like trying to go, oh, see, our daughter like doesn't. That's not how it started. My daughter was actually, her and her friends were looking to see, because they thought it was funny to see how much time everyone spent on their phones, and they were all like, most of her friends were like spending 3 to 4 hours a day on social media, on Instagram and Snapchat and whatever. And so she's like, I'm so busy. I have no idea how much time I'm spending on there. Like, I'm so busy. I can't even imagine like I'm spending that. I know I'm not spending that much time because I'm so busy. It was less than an hour a week.
Yeah.
So, but it's not because of us telling her she can't.
Right.
It's because she's so involved in so many things. She does karate, she does dance, she does, you know, she's doing so many things. She's got her church group and whatever. So there's no opportunity.
Right.
So she doesn't miss it.
Right.
So,
and there's also no need for it, basically, in her
She doesn't
mind.
find her fulfillment.
Right.
From
She's
it.
fulfilled in other places, and that's something just, if it happens, I see it.
Right. She like likes to go on Instagram now and then. She likes to look at the decorating things and whatever,
like
and catch up with her friends now and then. They've got streaks on whatever, I don't know.
Yeah.
So she's still a kid.
Right.
But she doesn't, it's not where she gets her fulfillment from.
Yeah.
So it was just an interesting thing to track and see, like, whoa, these girls are spending like hours every day.
Yeah.
Where are they getting the time? Like, I don't understand.
Well, and that's where their schoolwork starts to struggle. Socially, they start to struggle. Because they start, in a way, becoming obsessed with social media.
Right.
And, you know, the sad part is, there are benefits of social media.
Right.
It's not just negative.
Yeah, it's not a
I mean,
it's a tool.
It's a tool. And you can either use it towards your benefit. You can use it to educate. You can learn things. You can, you know, we put stuff out on Instagram,
so I use,
right? Like,
for me, social media is a job. So I use it to coach people.
Right.
I actually, you know, so everything I put out there is, I have people write to me. And I know a lot of people use it because they think they can get around system here at Amen Clinics, and they can get answers from Daniel through me. And that's okay. If that's why you're writing to me, that's fine. So, but I answer questions for people that are, health and nutrition related.
Right.
And so that's helpful to people. So it is a very valuable tool. Don't get me wrong.
Right. Yeah.
So,
or like the tips that you put on there.
Right.
I mean, I we're friends, so I look at it. Or like sometimes, some of the ideas for, I have your cookbook. So, I mean, those are all helpful. But unfortunately, it's like, for some reason, the 10-year-olds, the teenagers I'm seeing, the college-age students I'm seeing, they're not using social media for their benefit.
It's an escape.
It's yeah.
So it's almost like TV was for my generation, the latchkey kids. I was a latchkey kid. We'd go home and watch TV. I mean, that's what we did. But it's like now it's video games and it's social media. And it's a little worse because now you can take it with you everywhere.
Yeah. And what's worse about it is those games are promoting addiction.
Well, and there's, we can go down this rabbit hole a long way. It's not just games. So starting in about 7th grade, my daughter would come home and she's like, Mom, every boy in school has porn on his phone, just about. Like most of the boys I know are watching porn on their phones at school. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, they're 12. Yeah. Like, what? Yeah. So we've got boys like already sort of like their image and their idea of what a girl is supposed to be like is like completely distorted.
Yeah.
That's like, they're going to expect girls to be what?
And what ends up also happening, we didn't mention this, is then they're sneaking their phones at bedtime. Mm-hmm. So now it's not only an issue in the day, now they're not sleeping well. Right. And then they start texting or Snapchatting. All you need is one boy to say something negative about a girl, and then 20 other people
jump on board. So then the bullying. We're back to bullying.
We're back to bullying
We're back to the bullying trend. So what are some of the tips you give people, or is there anything you can tell people to help?
So I start with exactly where you guys started. You have to educate. You have to educate yourself. You have to educate your children. And then you need to implement certain boundaries. Yes, it is discipline. I mean, I had one couple, it was just recently, they were like, oh, so you're telling us to take away the phone at bedtime? It's okay? Or it's okay to shut off the internet?
But this is a very entitled society.
And I was like, yes, because now, this case was a little bit different because their child was also using marijuana. But I was like, yes. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like a drug, basically. You need to have your son stop playing video games.
And a lot of teenagers are like, they think that they're at an age where those things shouldn't happen or can't happen. And it's really funny. I mean, my big thing I get frustrated with my daughter with is she sometimes forgets to clean the cat box. That's my big thing I get mad at her for. And then I hear some of the things going on over here with our patients, and my husband's like, get off of her case. Like, she didn't clean the cat box. Get over it, right? Yeah. But I mean, that's my big thing. But I took her phone away one time. And I'm like, I'm not taking it away because you're a bad kid. This isn't a punishment. It's because you're not paying attention. Right. I need you to focus. I need you to pay attention. And if this is a distraction, sweetie, you need to pay attention to what's important in life. Right. Like, this is your animal, right?
But this is disciplining.
Right. And so many parents are like, but you can't do that when they're teenagers. And I'm like, as long as I'm paying that bill, I can do it. So
yeah, I don't know where it was not like that when I was being raised. I don't know where the shift came where
kids are entitled.
Yeah, and parents are afraid of implementing discipline.
Yeah, I never learned that. I never read that rule. So I'm not, So, no, as long as I'm paying the bills, that's how it's,
Right?
I rarely have to do that, but it's, it's interesting.
Well, then what's dangerous is when these teenagers go off to college. That's
when we see so much trouble.
So much trouble.
That's when we see like suicide attempts and
right. And then
really
that's also
serious
in
stuff.
The 20s is when psychotic breaks are more common and things like that. So I mean, but they haven't learned the good skills. Now they go off to freelance.
So they haven't learned the good skills, but they've still got mommy and daddy protecting them
to some extent. And then they go to college
and there's no one.
Ooh,
okay.
Very dangerous.
So they don't have social skills.
Right.
They don't know how to manage their time.
Right.
They don't know how to manage their money, most likely.
And their hygiene.
Right.
Sleep hygiene, nutrition, exercise.
So, they just go down a rabbit hole.
Right.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I have a lot of patients where I'm recommending that they have their, college-age students just go to JC.
Well, that's what Daniel was telling me. Daniel was saying he highly recommends for so many of the people because first year college is when we see so much trouble.
Exactly.
So
you have all of that, and then on top of, as we know, move, is a huge stressor.
Yeah.
Right? So change, they're moving into maybe a dorm. Now they have like 2 other roommates, right? They're moving away from family. They're moving away from all their friends.
Right.
Because every high school student isn't going to the same college.
Right.
So everything changes, right? And we're used to going, to high school from like 8 a.m. until 3 or whatever it is. That changes because you can have evening classes. You might not get the schedule you want. So it's just a lot of change.
It's a lot of change all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I know when Chloe was little, people would sometimes think I was mean because I would put so much responsibility on her. And I didn't do it in a mean way. It wasn't like, oh, kid, you have to do this. It was more like, and I didn't know, it's sort of a fun way even. Mm-hmm. But it was like I was always trying to get her to do a little more than what was probably normal at that age, I guess. Normal, what is normal? Mm-hmm. But she was doing, loading the dishwasher at 6, or she was doing her laundry by the time she was 8. She was cooking, making an omelet at 7. But I always tried to sort of push her. And when we go on vacation, I would make her find her way through the airport, or I would make her, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like, okay, take me to baggage claim. Guide the way. Because I was always worried that if she got lost, or
how could she
I don't know. Herself? I was just always and I got sick when I was really young. So I was always worried that if, God forbid, something happened to me. Right. That's kind of morbid, sorry. But I was always worried that how could I get my daughter to protect herself the best she can for the age she's at?
Right.
And so that always meant pushing her just a little bit further than, even now. I'm like, get on nav. You need to navigate me to where we're going if we're going to Los Angeles. And she's like, what? And I'm like, no, it's on you. You need to get on sigalert.com. Tell me where traffic is at. So she knows her way around LA.
Yeah.
But I think the more you start to actually do those things with your kids early on, the more competent they feel.
Right. And you know what I've been telling parents, I keep finding myself saying this and to the children, I'm like, it's not about the parents. It's about you. I get a lot of kids who are upset now if their parents try and discipline or something. I'm like, it's not about them. It's about you. Don't you want to have a successful life?
Yeah.
Be competent and be happy.
Right. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So, but, it's a struggle. It is, because we are in a culture that promotes this.
Yes. And unfortunately, it's just all you see is negative media.
It's so interesting. Well, so I love your suggestion. So, maybe they need to go to a junior college, but limit time on the phone.
Definitely limit time and keep them busy with healthy social bonding activities.
The more time, and I know this isn't possible for all parents. It wasn't possible for my mom. She worked 3 jobs. Yeah. Some parents can't do it. They're single parents, whatever. The more time you can spend with your kids, and it doesn't have to be a lot of time. It needs to be quality time.
Exactly.
It needs to be quality time on a regular basis. The more time you spend with your kids, the more that you will have influence over them, over someone else.
Yeah. The other thing I'm saying, whatever happened to dinner time?
Yeah, we have dinner every night together. As busy as we are, dinner is the one time.
I'm not saying one child's eating here, one's there. No more dinner time.
Yep, nope. We sit at the table every single night. That is the one, even if we're on vacation. That's the one thing.
And not when you're eating dinner, to not have your phone.
Yep. So important.
Yeah.
Okay, so I really like what you have to say about that. It's really an important issue, and I think it's really going to affect the next generation getting jobs.
Yeah.
So it's a really important thing.
And just being happy.
And their relationships.
Right. Yeah.
So, well, good.
Yeah.
Well, this is Mona, Dr. Karimpour. Mona Karimpour. And if you have problems with your adolescent, you can always reach out to the clinic. You are here at the Costa Mesa Clinic. Yes. We don't want to have you come here with problems with your young adult, but if you have them, there is help. So reach out, and you can call the number at the bottom of the screen. Thank you.